Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creative Amplifiers live show. And tonight we're live in both vertical and horizontal modes. So hopefully it's all going to work swimmingly, but we'll see how that goes. And thank you for everybody that's joined us so far. So tonight, let's get straight into it. We're going to talk about when life gets in the way or when life throws us challenges. What do we do? And more importantly, thinking about ourselves and when is it good to pause and stop doing all this content creation stuff. It's about looking after ourselves, some self-care, stop burning out. And it's not all about the grind, having to post relentlessly. There are things that we can do, things that we can put in place, systems and so on, and things that we've learned over the years around how to sort of reduce the amount of time we dedicate to this content creation, video production, all the stuff that we do on a daily basis, posting and all that kind of stuff, and why it's really important to look after yourselves, why it's important to just take a break. And it's not a big deal, right? You have permission to take a pause from this grind that we call content creation. So that's what we're all going to be talking about tonight. So if you've got any questions around that as well, and if that's affected you and how do you guys deal with it, and let us know in the comments. So I guess we can just start with when things happen to us. You know, it's all right to just stop creating content. Now, last week was a bit of a week from my perspective. I lost a friend. And, we decided from the perspective of doing the show, let's just pause the show. We don't have to worry about sort of, putting on a brave face and creating this show and going live. So there isn't any sort of problem with that from our audience's perspective and from us as a team. There's always an important time to just take a break, and it's not a problem. And we've seen in the past that when life happens and things happen to us where we feel we should just sort of down tools and not start producing this content, the audience is not going to disappear. People aren't going to say, well, you haven't posted, why, what's going on? I think if we put out a cancellation last week to say, we're going to cancel the show and whatever, and it's fine. And I think people spend too much time worrying about having to constantly create the content and just do whatever you can to make sure that post goes ahead, and it's no big deal. So life still goes on, and the world still revolves around us, and it isn't going to be a big deal. And I think that's sort of the main message that sort of we took from yesterday. So from last week. Anyway, so getting a bit of a muddle already, as you can see. It's one of those weeks. So anyway, we're going to talk about some of the things that we've sort of experienced and some of the ways that we deal with sort of putting a pause on the content. And I'll give you a quick story. I'll start with somebody that I was working with recently around sort of him being an entrepreneur and building a business, and some of the things that was brought to his attention, mainly around what he was doing and what he could do better. So this guy is a software engineer basically, and he founded this software company, and it's a high-flying multi-million-dollar company, and it was one of the first projects that he started. And as you know, from starting a business from scratch or building up a following or whatever it might be that you're doing, it's full steam ahead. You're always working. You're always basically doing something, because there's never enough hours in the day when you're creating a business and starting up your projects. And he was working with a coach who was helping him with his business. And, he was feeling so stressed with the pressures of work and stuff and having no time for anything else. And his coach basically just said to him, look, open up your calendar. First of all, he asked the question to him, who is the most important person in your life right now? And obviously it isn't your business. It's his wife, it's his family, and it's his wife. And, it's the support system he has around him. And his coach basically said to him, well, just open up your calendar and show me on this calendar where you've got time allocated for your family and for your wife. And he basically looked at it and said, there's nothing in there. It's all meetings. It's all project-based work. It's 7 days a week, full to the grind. And that was one of the biggest realizations, he said, that he was making no time whatsoever for his family and for his wife. So he simply booked 2 time slots in his calendar each week, which were non-negotiable. They were not going to be moved on any account, and basically put in some time to dedicate to spending time with his wife and his family, and the business stuff would just sit there, and he'd go back to it next day and continue with his work. But by having something written down in a calendar and forcing him to take that natural break from his day-to-day grind meant that he could simply spend time with his family, spend time with his wife, and not lose contact and not lose all sort of sense of purpose. And that basically helped him with his business. It helped save, his relationship, and more importantly, it helped save his sort of mental well-being, because that's a big problem when you're stuck into the grind all the time and not have any time out, time for yourself, time for your family. And that's where sort of the warning signs can happen and stuff. So that was one, interesting story that I think is really important to make sure that if you are a person that just, is so regimented in your day-to-day grind, then having something calendarized, something as mundane as putting a calendar entry in there to support your family and to take some time out, then that's always something that you can do yourselves. Lisa, Mark, any thoughts on sort of how sort of you would sort of prioritize your time, and any stories that you have around that as well?
Yeah, I always try, when I'm working with people, tell them that same thing, but also, and you mentioned it, building in that time for yourself, even if it's, 15 minutes to walk outside or an hour to go do something, to work out or walk or something, because you personally, as an individual, also need that space and time. And so it's truly, truly important. There was a time, I'm going in the Wayback Machine, a number of years ago. My daughter was a teenager. I was running a business. I was doing content. I had a home fragrance and personal fragrance business. I was starting to do the food videos. My mom had dementia, so I was going to the Bay Area all the time. I was going through a divorce. What else can I add on and pile on to this? But all this was happening at once, and I was so hell-bent on, I got to keep doing the content, and I got to keep making, the products and get them out and get them shipped. And what happened for me is my body physically broke down, like completely broke down. Blood pressure went up, literally broke down. And so you can't fool around with stress. It's going to come out in some ways. And it came out, physically for me through some type of illness. And I can't stress enough when I'm working with people. It's like, I think it's great and grand. You want to do all these things and create this and do that, but make sure you build in time for yourself to keep yourself healthy, and time for your family, because that's your support system and you support them, it's both ways. So your audience will be there. The people who, your tribe, the people who really love following you and really love your content, they'll be there when you come back, and it's okay to stop. You can go back to it. It's all right. So that's my feeling about it.
Yeah, I think that's really important, I think. And you got to the point, I think, in your story, what you were mentioning is that your body was now telling you, all right, enough is enough. And that's sometimes too late, right? Your body is now feeling pain. Your body is suffering because simply you've pushed it too far. So what we're trying
I was feeling heart palpitations. I was feeling all kinds of madness, but I pushed through because I had to get this done. I had to take care of my daughter. I had to do this. I had to do that. And y'all, sometimes you just got to stop and pay attention, before something really bad happens. So
yeah, and I think it's too easy to fall into that trap of that constant hamster wheel. We don't have the hamster graphic anymore, but if we did, he'd be there churning away. And it's just like what you do, right? You just end up sort of churning content out and sort of literally burning yourself out by thinking of ideas, and you've got to serve the audience and so on. And, even the biggest TV series in the world take breaks. That's why they have seasons and things like that. So, you don't have to continuously do this 24 hours a day and so on. Mark, how do you because you've got a lot of projects that you're working on at the moment, and you've got a lot of family stuff going on as well. So what's your techniques for balancing all this stuff that you have to do?
I think it's sometimes difficult to get into that issue of it needs to look like this even when you think you're having it balanced. So the calendarization thing is great. until your life doesn't work very well on a calendar. So you sort of have to be flexible as well. So me and my wife are both freelance, for example. So we do put things in and we do say we're going to do this, but also by the same time, we also know that if the phone calls comes and says, can you go and do X, Y, or Z tomorrow? Unless it's something we really, really will say no to, we might actually do that. But with the understanding that we'll then do it another day or work, you know, you kind of have that sort of built into the way that you work as well. And I think a good example for us was that, you know, when our kids were around and when they were young, we decided that one of us would generally be at home. So that was kind of, we wanted them to grow up with a parent at home, just looking after everything, being able to do the school runs, do all the clubs, do all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't necessarily 50-50 every week, because sometimes I'd be doing a stint of something, sometimes my wife would, sometimes it would be a bit more half and half, but we did it because we wanted our family to look that way. And even with them, there's still sometimes when we might both be working and then someone else would sort of hold the fort for a little bit, but it was only every sort of now and again. So what it enables you to do is to sort of set the framework for how you want that to look. And so once you've got that in place, then you can ebb and flow with the way that you sort of want to take it forward. And, you know, our kids have all left now. Our youngest one's gone to university this September. And now you just think, I'm just glad of every single time that I did that. You know, I didn't earn all this money, or I didn't do that project because we kind of set our life in that way. But now I'm glad of every minute, every second that we actually did, because, you know, you can't get that back. You know, there's plenty of time to do things another time. And I think we all have seasons. Like Lisa was saying, you know, if you've got a relative that's poorly, or you're going through something which is really serious, if you're going through a divorce or whatever it happens to be, you know, that is what it is. And you can do the best you can within it, but that particular season of your life is going to be difficult, and it's going to have more pressure than when everything seems to be swimming and everything seems to be working really well, and you think, oh, this is really straightforward, and then something happens again, and that just happens in all of our lives. And I think just being sort of kind to yourself, realizing where you are with that, doing the best you can with it, and just sort of having that prioritization. What are you doing this for? Like I say, you know, if you putting all the time into content creation or doing a project because you want to have time and money for your family, but you're not seeing them, then what's the point? You know, if you're thinking, I'm going to do it for a short amount of time to enable me to do something, then maybe that's worth doing it in a short sprint in order to do, we think it's going to look different very soon rather than in 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. You can never do that thing. And I think there's also, just finally, there's sort of a grey area as well in terms of what's the thing that you really want to do, because our content creation is that, okay, so maybe for us, you know, this live show is what we want to be doing, how we want to be spending our time, and how we want to show up for people. It's our choice then, you know, how much social do we want to do, how much editing do you want to do when we put it out once it's been live, how much do we do this? And that's been the brilliant thing about doing it as a group, because that shares those things. If you're doing it all on your own, sometimes I think maybe as well as sort of calendarizing what you want to do, it's that how much effort do I want to put into each of those things. You know, I'm going to focus on the podcast, I'm going to focus on the show, I'm going to support it the best I can, but I'm not going to wake up every morning and the first thing I do is going to post it to make sure it's the first thing on someone's feed or whatever it is that you're going to do. So I think understanding all of those grey areas as well as the hard and fast rules are probably going to be supportive as well.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think just to go back, you brought up the word prioritizing and making your priorities. And I think it's important maybe twice a year or quarterly to just stop and look at what is really important to you right now in this moment, because things change, life happens. You know, things could be going great and then not. So I think it's good to do that check-in with yourself. Quarterly is not a bad idea, you know. A lot can happen in 3 months.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of changes can happen in 3 months. So maybe do a quarterly check-in of what do I want? How do I want to live? Who do I want to be? And who do I want to be with? What do I want around me?
Yeah.
And, you know, what does my work life look like? What does my downtime life look like? And just check in with yourself.
And I think it's really easy to suddenly realize how that can change without you knowing it. Because it's like, you know, you've had a holiday, you come back, you feel really refreshed. You're like, I've got everything sorted. I know what I'm doing. I've got my week planned, and then my next week, and then the next week. And then you're suddenly, like I say, you're sort of 2 months into a 3-month plan. And what you have forgotten is that you're not getting quite enough sleep. And those times you were going to exercise have gone from every day to twice a week to once a week to never, but it still sort of feels all right. But what you can't tell is the fact that when you finished your holiday, you felt very different to what you do now. But that gradual decline, or that gradual change of what it is that you're doing, is very hard to measure unless you stop, unless you have something you put in place until you can actually say, oh no, this isn't right, or actually I can now see or feel the difference in where I was and what I was trying to do. And it's difficult to notice sometimes, but again, that's where the support network comes in as well. You know, someone can hopefully hold you accountable and just say, are you sure? You know, you sort of mentioned this, is this really what you want to be doing, or spending your time, or you know, you seem to be, you know, you said one thing, but the reality from our perspective looks slightly different. And, you know, that's the good thing about a good accountability partner, or good friends, or good people that can, you know, support you. And they know you the best way to kind of help you do that. But, yeah, important to have that with you as well.
I think it's, and I love what you both said, because I think it's to have somebody, one, to have a review, whether that's a quarterly review or a 6-month review. I tend to do it probably 6 months, and it's probably not frequent enough, because you do try a few things. You end up going down a rat hole maybe of creating this content. It's maybe not working. It's maybe taking up too much of your time. Maybe you could be spending your time more effectively and efficiently. And it's not just about working harder. I know we say all the time it's about working smarter, but there is a lot of merit to say to that, because you could spend all day on one thing that doesn't, one, it locks you away in a room away from your friends and family. Two, it doesn't move the needle effectively on your business, i.e. it's not generating income if that's what you want to do, or it's not satisfying to you. It's something that you feel like you have to do as opposed to something that you want to do. And I've tried to have a think about this over the last sort of few months as well, and getting to the point now where I want to do things that make me happy, number one, and two, that I can really get behind and get enthusiastic about, and not necessarily say yes too much about the things that I think I should be doing instead of doing the things that I would like to do. And with that, if you say yes too much to projects, to endorsements, to collaborations, to whatever it might be, then that becomes more burden on you to actually then generate that more content, leading to more burnout, yada, yada, yada. So I think it's important to say no as well. And I was telling somebody this story the other day about when I used to work as a IT consultant. I had to travel a lot for my job. And as we spoke just before the show, I was leaving home at 5 a.m., getting up at 9 p.m. I had a child at the time, a young kid, and I basically didn't see much of anybody during that sort of week, because it was just a rinse and repeat thing. And like Mark said, you know, you end up working all these hours because you want to support your family and do the thing, but in doing so, you end up not having any time with the family that you're trying to support. So it's like, okay, well, something's got to break here. Unfortunately, my relationship broke, so that was the warning sign that was the lesson that I learned from that, and tried not to repeat that in future. And one of the things that I decided for myself is, look, I'd been with this company for a long time, and they were repeatedly asking me to travel. And at one point I just said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't want to travel. You can either do something about that, either put me into a different role, I'll take a step back, whatever it might be. Anyway, I just felt so empowered just to say no at that point, to no more of this sort of international travel that was taking me away from my family and things. And sometimes you just have to put yourself first. You always think, well, what's the company going to think of me, and what's my boss going to think of me? What if I don't succeed there and I get fired or something? Look, at the end of the day, it's a little bit of a risk, but it's not as big a risk as the detriment to your own health and your own well-being. So I think sometimes you've just got to be able to say no. And this is the same for content, for projects, for things that people are asking you to do. There's nothing wrong with saying no. And you and I have spoke, Mark and Lisa, on a project that I was going to get involved with when I started my thing. And I explained to you the potential pitfalls and headaches that would be caused by taking on this client. And both of you said, nah. Just don't do it. It's easier to walk away than cause yourself months of pain. And I think that's important, to be able to just say no and step back and just think about what's important to you, because you will know when you get to a certain point in life, a certain age and a certain level of experience, that you think, Why didn't I just do that like 10 years ago? Would have been so much easier. But it's too late then. So our advice is think about it now, wherever you are in your content creator journey, and don't take on too much.
Yeah, we forget we have the power to walk away from the nouns, the people, places, and things that aren't serving us. I don't mean to sound woo-woo, but I'm going to say it that way.
No, that's true.
But we have the power to walk away, and in doing that, something else will come along that we should be doing. That will, you
need to create that space, don't you? In order for
serve
that to
our
happen.
soul. So.
Yeah, and one of the things, in fact, I've had this conversation with my wife this week, is the sense, you know what it's like when you've had an issue, whether you've had a stomach bug or something like that, and you can't eat for a few days, and then you suddenly get to the point where you're, oh, okay, I can actually eat something. This tastes so good, and I can do this, and you completely sort of stopped whatever it is that you've been doing before, and everything seems like a great experience and a wonderful thing. It's like, what do I really want to have, which is going to nourish me, which is I'm really going to enjoy, something which is going to be a really positive thing for me. And then you get very excited about just the most simple things. And I think that the same thing happens sort of, like you were saying, you know, if you're going to take a step back from work or change what you're doing, what is it at that point? Yeah, I want to do that, or this seems really exciting, or this is going to be a really positive thing for me, from that sort of, okay, I've had that chance of literally not eating for a bit, or, you know, I'm not working in this way, or I'm not creating this content. No, I really want to do this. I know I should be doing that. Well, I don't need to do the should bit anymore, because I'll just do the thing that I'm going to do. And it takes a lot of courage, I think, because, like you say, it may be a loss of work, it might be a different income stream, it might be, you know, you get secure in the securities which aren't that secure, but you kind of sort of hold on to those things. But like I say, you want to make those decisions and do it before it's too late. Otherwise, what is the point, you know?
There's definitely a balance to be struck, I think, in that situation, and it is important to be able to say no to the various projects, and it is a balance, because I think a lot of people will just focus on, well, if I don't take this particular project, I'm going to lose some revenues, as you mentioned. But I think that just from experience, the headaches definitely outweigh the revenue when it comes to sort of doing the work and your well-being. I was going to just pause and just go to the comments. We've got a few people just to say a quick hello to, then we'll come on to our next thing. I press the button. Oh, there's Roy from last week. Thanks, Roy. You're not here today. Let's see if this actually works. There you go. So Saeed says, anybody else feel guilty of reminding others about work-life balance but completely forgetting it themselves? Yes, we've done that, you know. I mean, I preach to people, not preach, but, you know, I sort of advise people and then sometimes don't take my own advice and so on. Hello, Dean. Thanks for joining us. You were on the show with Martin and myself on Thursday, so thanks for joining. And this is a bit slow clicking on here. Oh, that name doesn't fit on there, but hello. Thanks for joining as well. So some of the usual suspects in the show tonight. So what things have we put in? Did you want to go on to another topic, Lisa, or I was going to mention about maybe some things to that we do that we put in place?
I turned in here. I was like, "What's the next question?"
Oh, you were listening to the imaginary radio speaker that was blurting out the next question.
I was just frantically just trying to redo your name to Reverend Neil as you were about to preach and.
The white little dog collar on that. No, sorry. No, I don't like using that word. Sorry, I was just trying to think of another word. Anyway, oh dear. What was I talking about? Okay, so calendarizing stuff. I know we talked about content calendars and stuff like that, and we've mentioned it before, but I use my calendar all the time. And one of the things I learned from way back when I used to work is, have you ever had that situation where when you were either during COVID, where people would book meetings back to back, and you'd end up having like 6 or 7 hour days where you'd finish one Zoom call and you just didn't have enough time to take a sip of water before the next Zoom call kicked in. And one of the things that I changed, because every Zoom call when I was working used to be an hour, like 1 hour Zoom call, right? It was always a meeting for an hour. So just changing that to 45 minutes, just changed everything, because it allowed you then to have a buffer between each one. And then people didn't have to start the meeting bang on 11 o'clock. You'd maybe start at 11:05 and go to, I don't know, 11:50, for example. Therefore, you'd have your meeting, but you'd have that like little buffer between each one and things like that. So just those little things that you can do if you are in a situation where you're booking or working with clients and booking client calls and things. And Calendly or cal.com is a great way of being able to schedule that time for you, because then you can add these buffers, and you can also allow people to only book maybe 4 or 5 meetings a day, because nobody wants 10 or 12 meetings. I know, Mark, you do your batch recording for podcasts on a Monday, and I think you have, is it Monday like today where you have a lot of calls or a lot of sessions? How do you typically sort of do that with, and how do you set up that schedule? Do you purposely do it on a Monday and get it over with, or do you spread it over the week?
Yeah, so I've kind of developed. I've changed it actually recently to a Thursday, and I've sort of got Monday for other things and an interview or something that I need to do, just to sort of fill that out for something I want to do, an opportunity that comes. But I basically sit down. There are certain things in my week that have to be structured, and there are certain things that are a little bit fluid. So I typically just sit down at the beginning of a period, work out the days. So, for example, if it's a Monday or Thursday and I'm going to be recording those days, I put them all in the calendar. I then go back through the calendar again and then work out, do I want to do each of those weeks? Because it might be that one of those weeks, like I say, I decide we want to go shopping with my wife or spend a day or have lunch or do whatever, and just because I know already that the first 3 weeks are going to be full or whatever that happens to be. So I take some of those out, or if there was stuff with the kids that we needed to do, or an event or something I wanted to make sure I was going to be free for. And then I used to do, I think I've done up to 4 or 5 recordings in a day, which was a little bit bonkers. Whereas now I generally only allow it to book 2. And I always have a buffer in between, for exactly that reason, that you need just enough time to sort of reset, have a chance to walk outside, or have lunch or take a coffee or whatever it happens to be. So now I've decided much more to kind of spread things out a little bit, make sure and the thing was to the start time, because when you've got all day to do that stuff, it's like, oh well, because I'm in the UK and I record with people on the West Coast. It's that kind of, if I started this time, then I've got to go late to make sure I catch them. But I know there are people who want in the UK want to record early, and it's just that. What I can do is I can actually understand that and have some days where I can record a bit later, some days where I start a bit earlier, and actually just make that work for me, so that I know that this morning I don't have to be up super early to do that, because I know I'll have had a busy week going on. And as a musician, sometimes, if you're working in the evenings or doing concerts, I don't want to be getting up first thing in the morning and all that sort of stuff, because I've been there and done that, both with kids and also just because that's the reality of life as someone who does that sort of work. So just sort of putting those things in place and having that structure, and just deciding, no, I'm going to start recording no earlier than 10:30 or 11, or I'm just going to do the afternoon, which means the morning, back to that thing about what's important. I know I can get up, we can have breakfast together, I can go for a walk if the weather's nice, because you don't know what the weather's going to be like. So if it's nice, great, we'll get in the garden, we'll go to the forest, we've got a canal by us, we can do all of that, and I still know I can do that prep, come back and be ready to do a show at midday or 1 o'clock or whatever it happens to be, and vice versa. Maybe just do the morning, have the afternoon off, and those sorts of things. I mean, if you take today's a sort of an example, I had stuff to do this morning, came back, did a bit of shopping, bought some nice stuff for Christmas related stuff, did a little bit of tree decorating, we've had dinner, and then here we are, having our show. And so it's been a wonderful day. I've had lots of different things going on, and technically I'm sort of working all day, but actually within that there's lots of times to do life. I've not literally been working from the crack of dawn until whenever we finish this show. There's been a lot of life going on within that day as well, and then it feels nice and fluid, and then you feel like you've got as much time as you can to kind of work around that and enjoy it for what it is.
I don't know about you guys, but I think the best thing about being a solo creator, an entrepreneur, somebody who's running your own thing, is the ability to have the flexibility. I would have never been able to do what you've just said you were planning and what you did today if I was, nose to the grindstone, as it were, on the IT work, because I was dictated to and governed by what my clients wanted and the company that I was working for. You will be on these Zoom calls, you will work 9 to 5. With a 45-minute to 1 hour lunch break, and that's it, which I never typically took anyway, as you don't, because you just go over. So Lisa, how do you plan your days with your clients and things? And I'd like to talk to you about rituals and things a little bit later, but sort of planning and things, what's your sort of tips.
Well, can I just jump back on something Mark said?
Of course.
I think in doing what he was talking about is being aware of your energy level throughout the day. Like if you're a morning person and that's when you can knock out doing your content and then the afternoon you can't, like think about that because it'll make life easier as you're trying to, produce content. Also with clients, going back to what you said, Neil, if I knew a client took a little more energy, and I knew I need a little more buff. I'm being nice.
Yeah, no.
But they're high.
Yeah.
They're type A high energy, and I know that's going to take a lot out. I love working with them, but it's going to take a lot out of me. I know to build in a longer in between time of scheduling on Calendly, or of having that break for myself, so I could walk outside, or I could grab a little snack, or I could just reground myself and get myself back in order. So I think just using the word energy, pay attention to all of that. The people you're working with, who you're recording with, how you feel during the day, what you actually want to do as far as your work and your workflow. I think that's really, really important. You asked me another question. Rituals. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I was thinking, so you've built in your buffers and things like that. And I agree with you, the high-end client thing, or the high-energy client. We had another name for them, but I'm not going to say that on air. But there are clients that will drain your energy. And it's fine. They're great to work with, as you said, but it takes an extra level of effort and concentration and maybe patience that you might not have at a certain time of the day. Like I'm quite good in the mornings, but towards the end of the evening, I'll get a bit grumpy. So maybe I won't work with people at that time because I'm a little bit tired and my energy is a bit lower just naturally because of the day. So I think you're right. You always got to match your clients' sort of work ethic and how they want to work with you with the time of day that suits you as well, without getting too frustrated, because that can lead to burnout as well, because you dread maybe working with them. And it's like, no, I don't want to do anything else. No, you're done for the day. Yeah. Have you ever had that situation where you've worked with somebody, and this is not my experience with working in the new role of being a content creator, but back in the IT days, there was times when, I used to dread a particular client call because I knew what it was going to be about and I knew the type it was going to be. And then by the time I'd finished, because potentially it was an hour, but then it went on for maybe 2 or 3, I couldn't face doing anything else in the day, but then you have to, right? It's like, okay, I'll just take a little coffee and I'm back to it. And that's draining. And by the end of the day, you're like, it's like the Duracell bunny, the batteries have gone completely.
You're done.
And you're done.
And to go back to Mark with the schedule as you're working throughout your day, I knew when I was doing my food videos, the guy who shot everything, we had a schedule. And we'd knock out 3 videos in a day, which is a lot when you're trying to do cooking videos and things go wrong and towels catch on fire or whatever. But anyway,
that's high risk. That's high risk. Wow. There you go.
Anyway, but we came to laugh about this. When I'm hungry, don't talk to me. Just feed me, and my energy just goes. And he was the same way. So we knew that 12:30, no matter what, we had to stop and eat. Right. And it became this funny thing. It was like, okay, let me order food. Let's get some food in here. Because nothing was getting done, Yeah. My energy was low on camera. He was getting, fussy. I was getting fussy. I was like, we need to eat. And we would just stop, and build that in. So build in those breaks. And again, pay attention to your body and your energy level as you're trying to do all this to make it even easier.
On that, so I was just going to say on that point. Also, I think one of the things that I've come to be better at, still not brilliant at, but better at, is the kind of making sure that what you do within all of that is actually supportive for you. Because it's you can turn around and say, yeah, I've done 3 videos, I've done 5 podcasts, I've had a great, very successful day, and now I'm going to drink a bottle of wine and go to the chip shop or whatever it happens to be, and I've deserved all that sort of stuff.
Chip shop? What did you say?
You can explain this one, Mark.
Please, I'm in LA, Cali.
Fish and chip shop.
Fish and chips. Okay.
But we call it chip shop.
I never heard that before. I didn't interrupt, but
No.
Yeah. You're welcome. Education 101 from the UK.
from Education on Fire. Thank you.
There you go. I need to change my direction.
There's a plug. Nice.
And actually, I think there are a lot of people who identify, you know, are you going to drink too much? Are you eating wrong? Or whatever it is that you think you deserve, whatever happens to be. But I think having that control of understanding that when I've done whatever I'm going to do something which is really supportive for me. So I'm going to eat this thing. I'm going to spend the time to cook well. I'm going to make sure that I do something I'm going to enjoy. And I think once you get into that habit and that routine, things start to snowball in a really positive way, in a way that it can snowball in the opposite direction as well if need be. So I think all those little micro decisions you make to really help and support yourself, that reinforce what you're doing is supporting you, I think is a really positive thing. And that can go for conversations, like say how much time you're spending for people, whatever it is that you're doing. All the small things build up to the bigger things as well.
Chip shops. There you go. Yeah. Now we've learned something today. And we've got a couple of comments in there as well. Somebody saying that Dean saying that it's actually, you know, French fries, but you know, we can.
Not in my chip shop.
No, not in my chip shop. Yeah, exactly. How very dare you, as we would say. Yeah, I was going to go on to, and we're going to get to some comments in a second, but I was going to go on to rituals, because I think rituals, daily rituals, things that you do to help you with the day, the coming content creation pieces that you would plug into your natural daily sort of working framework. Ideas that we have in the morning, in the evening, types of things that we do just to sort of start our day. I'll go with mine in a moment. But Lisa, I know you are a sort of a person who sort of makes sure that they have certain habits in the day and certain rituals to kickstart your mornings, and also to make sure that you have enough energy and life in you towards the end of the day to continue with all this creation. So, what are some of the things that you do on a sort of a daily basis in terms of your rituals?
Morning lately, even more so. I've been doing a morning brain dump that I just write out whatever I woke up thinking.
Oh,
It
wow.
might be related to content creation. It may not. It might be related to something I had to do in my garden or someone I need to call. But I do this brain dump and get it all out. And I know I've had people do that at night so you can sleep, you know, to write all that stuff down so it's not in your brain and, you know, you got it out. But I'm finding in the morning, it helps my creativity, especially even if it's not necessarily something related to content. It's something that's related to something I probably will do later in the day, and I'll have the answer for it because it's been marinating. You know what I mean? As far as for when I'm about to record or do any kind of content, music. Oh my gosh, I gotta have the right playlist. Just to get my energy up and to, you know, get me in the mood, and it feels like you're on set, you know. You're gonna do this.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, I love doing that. Maybe I'll dance around a little too, but
No, well,
I thought you were about to just go and do it.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to demonstrate what your tune actually was.
no, I was just about to say now we need the playlist in order to get that.
that's
But
what we need. We need to do a Spotify Creative Amplifiers playlist.
there you go. We could do that. That sounds good.
Monthly.
Yeah.
There you go.
But we need to find a tune that we all like. Otherwise, it'll be like one week one of us will be up, and the next week it'll be someone else.
That's about it. That's all. Yeah, just keep it going. Yeah. Just keep that going. But it is interesting though, because as you know from the TV industry, and you see these chat shows, they always have a warm-up act, right? Before they get the chat show on, before in front of a live audience, they're telling jokes, getting people warmed up and
Hopefully
things
they're
like
funny.
that.
I'm sorry.
Well, hopefully they're funny. I mean, maybe not. Yeah. So maybe before every show, we should just get a warm-up act to come on, like steal the show. It's like, and then we come on, it's like, yeah, you know. But it is interesting though to get your energy. I've started. Well, when it was summer, I'd make a point of getting up, have a coffee, and be outside, get some sunshine, taking some fresh air, get accosted by the 5 cats who need feeding, or they're going to kill me, one of the two. Things like that, and just sitting outside and just being in nature for 30 minutes, no laptops, no electronics, nothing like that. That would be my sort of morning ritual. And I think I mentioned to you guys that probably about a year ago now, I used to go to bed, you know, just before you go to bed, you just... oh, let's have a look at Instagram and all that kind of doom scrolling nonsense. And really bad for you, just because your mind is ticking over, the blue light as well, not great for your eyes, all that kind of stuff. Everything just everything that you could do wrong before you go to sleep is basically anything to do with looking at emails and stuff, because then your mind starts ticking over and you start ruminating maybe about something that you hadn't finished or all that kind of stuff. This phone stays in this room before I go to bed, and I read for 30 minutes to an hour. And I was never a big reader. I had a Kindle, probably read maybe one book a year if I could get through it. I think I'm on my 10th book now or something like 11. I mean, I've just read so much and I really enjoyed anything from, autobiographies to novels, or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what it is. There's nothing off limits. Well, Mills and Boons, and things like that. Mark will know that reference. It's romance novels. They're off the list. But anything that goes, because the main thing is to take your mind away. And I find that I'm sleeping so much better. I'm sleeping for longer. I'm not waking up as much in the middle of the night. I haven't got this monkey mind going on when I wake up and feel compelled to do something. So it's all about just changing those daily habits, I think that help you. And plus, as well, I haven't drunk any alcohol for 5 months now. Just thought I know it's shocking. I know it's shocking, but we made a decision in summer, let's just stop for a bit and just see.
It makes a difference.
And it takes about 3 months to get out of your system, because just feeling worse in the morning by having just one glass of red wine, which is the worst for you in terms of toxins and stuff like that, just looking a bit more into it, just made me sleep quicker, but then I have more of a restless night and then wake up in the morning not feeling 100%. When you wake up in the morning, you should feel a little bit groggy because you've got all those, chemicals going on, which is a good thing. And to me, I wasn't waking up very well. And that's not that I was drinking every day, but when you drink at the weekend and stuff like that. Anyway, so it's been 5 months and I didn't drink anything at Thanksgiving, and I don't miss it, which is interesting. So all I'm drinking now is just water and pretty much water and tonic water with no gin in it. It feels like I'm drinking gin and tonic, but it's just tonic, which is fine, and limes. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll have a drink at Christmas, but I really don't miss it. And that's an interesting thing. So that has helped me from a daily habits, and it helps me not get too down about stuff, because it's a depressant as well. So if you drink and then you think, I've got all this work to do, it almost goes around a vicious cycle. So anyway, it's not a top tip. It's just something that I've been doing. So 5 months.
Congrats.
Impressive.
I know, but there you go. Anyway, so other than not drinking, things that you do, Mark, maybe in your daily routine, are you a sort of a morning person as well? Or I know you mentioned what you did today, but maybe sort of on a habit perspective.
Yeah, I think I have both things. I mean, if I'm going to be creative and do content related stuff, the morning is better, because like say you wake up and you're fresher, and it's much easier if you completely have control of your diary to be able to schedule it that way, but it's the day starts to wind down, replying to emails or doing stuff which doesn't take the same sort of capacity. It's a nice way to do it. But my life isn't able to be quite structured that way all of the time. So I kind of try and be a bit more relaxed about it. There are days that I can do that, and I really do. In the days where I can't do it, I'm less bothered about it in the way that I used to be. I used to get frustrated by not being able to do that. I wish it could look like this. And actually I'm a bit better now at just, there we are today. Tomorrow's another day. Or I'll do what I can today. And I'm better off. I think I'm better now at switching off, and so that's fine, because in 2 days' time, I'm going to spend a whole day doing this, and it's going to be brilliant. I can't do anything about it in the meantime. Whereas I think in the past, like you said, I'd either try and grab more hours in the day and do more of it, or I'd actually be thinking about it all the time, even if I wasn't being very productive. So I think that's probably been my sort of experience. And the older I've got and the more my work life has changed, then I've got more control of that anyway. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, and just while I'm thinking about it, I'm curious as to what you think about the ebb and flow of just the natural cycles of things, whether it's full moon, whether it's the fact that how do you feel in the winter compared to the summer? Because I just always think in the summer, I'm up at the crack of dawn, it's lovely, we're outside all day. Like I say, you get all that daylight, you're in the garden. And this time of year, you're like, I can't get up. I'm sort of feeling like the day's finished at 4:30. It's like, well, it wasn't like that in the summer, but that's the way life is. That, you know, there's a natural rhythm to those things, and actually, when you try and push through that, that's not necessarily very supportive anyway. And actually, just allowing yourself to be, no, this is winter. Actually, you're not supposed to be working in the same way as you are in the summer. I'm sort of curious as to if that affects you as well.
Yeah, that time change thing is not good for me. It's dark too early, and I think it's later than what it is, and then I get angry because it's just 6 o'clock. It's dark.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want to go to bed. So you're absolutely right. The cycle of just nature definitely affects us.
I'm just shocked at how noisy it is where Mark is at the moment. Thank you for
I
muting,
just
by the
muted
way,
myself
like,
because it
oh
literally
my
feels
God.
like the rain's going to come through the roof. It's unbelievable. So
I know.
yeah, I'll keep myself.
No problem. Appreciate that. It's angry. It's very angry where he is at the moment. I think you're right about the time changes as well, and it does get a little bit depressing, and it does affect your mood. I think when it gets darker in the evenings, and it's cold, and it's raining, and all these things do affect sort of your mood. But I see them as a plus sometimes, because if it's raining and it's cold and you can't go outside, then maybe that is a good time then to just maybe plan and do a little bit more of a structure, and maybe plan your day a little bit more. You can still do like fun things and have time outs and breaks. But I think if you don't have the distraction of like, well, I could be outside, I could be doing some gardening, or I could be enjoying the sunshine. At least if it's miserable, it gives you a little bit more focused time. That's the way I look at it. But I promise you, I don't like the cold. I don't like the dark nights, and especially didn't like getting up, going to work in the dark, and coming home in the dark. That was never fun. But anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
But this is a good time when it hits 6 o'clock, and that's my heart out.
Right. Yeah.
Don't call me after that.
Yeah.
To go make soup. Like,
Yeah.
put on some music
Right.
and make some soup and be cozy. So that is a plus.
Wonderful.
I was just going to ask you both about snow days, but I guess that's probably not very relevant, is it, to all three of us?
No, not really. No.
Anyway, my
No.
point about that was more the fact that Neil, you'll remember this. You go into school or you go into work, and you expect the day to look a certain way. You're on that sort of treadmill feel of here we are, and then all of a sudden the snow hits. It's like tools down. You can't get to work. You can't get to school. And then all of a sudden the day has to look completely different than you expected. But the important thing is that you then give yourself, or you've been given permission to do something different. We're going to watch a film. We're going to light the fire. We're going to have a day that we weren't expecting. And I think when you sort of feel the benefit of that, you realize how far away from that you have been for however long that is. And I think those days are really important, just as a reset, just to go, oh, maybe I can try and make it a little bit more than that. And I think bringing in little things that you do differently, normally I have this in the morning, I'm going to eat this or drink this. Well, I'll do something different, or I'll walk this way to work a different way, or I'll take a different route here. And it just suddenly sort of changes that sense of I've got some control of what I'm doing, but also just mixing it up just takes that monotony out, in a sense that there's a new dawn, if you like, for anything that you can control as well, even if it's only a small thing, but makes a big difference.
I think, excuse me, I think you can apply that to your content creation. So like if you have slated out Monday, I do this, Tuesday, I do that, Wednesday, switch it up and move things on different days just to do something different.
Yeah.
At the end of the week, you're still going to have the same end result. So why not switch out how your day flows?
Yeah, it doesn't always have to follow the same routine every week in, week out. And it's
I
nice to
think
have
it's
that. Then at least you know what.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Sunday. It's social media posting day, or whatever it is. Yeah, and sometimes things happen. You want to do something else, and I think being self-sufficient and being your own boss, you've got that flexibility to move things around. Nobody's going to question, why you're now writing your Substack post on a Thursday and stuff. It doesn't matter, right? It's entirely up to you. And I think that with the type of work that we do and the content creation, you can have that flexibility. You don't have to have that same mundane routine. I was going to mention a little bit about ways to make the process of content creation a little bit easier with automation. I know we spoke about this here on this show, but there's a couple of comments about that as well. So if I'll just switch to the comments real quick. Dean, I know you're a video producer and has been going down a rat hole of AI automation. Yes, N8N, Lovable, Google Opal, to name it a few, but mainly N8N. And I know Lisa's been playing with N8N. And I've recently been using make.com, but now I've been playing with N8N, and I've actually set N8N up in a different way as well. And I'll talk to you about that in a second. Oh, yeah. So Saeed mentioned that Kat Mulverhill once shared her idea about having a sabbatical week. So 1 full week off every 6 weeks, non-negotiable pause, something your brain can look forward to long before burnout starts. And that's a nice idea where it's almost like a mini holiday, but you don't have to physically go anywhere. You just take a break from content. And I think that's a very good idea, good workflow.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So automation. We love a little bit of automation to simplify the thing. And if we'd spoken on this show this time, maybe a year and a half ago, we'd all be going, what? What's automation? The only automation I was aware of at the time was my Calendly workflow automation, where it would send somebody an email after they'd kindly booked a meeting with me or after they'd finished the meeting and things like that. So those types of automations are great. But there's so many ways now to automate the content that you create, whether it be video, posts, images, Instagram, Reels, whatever it might be. There's a ton of different workflows. All the posts that you see on a Monday morning from me on my LinkedIn is a fully automated workflow that pulls in all the YouTube links and the descriptions of what we're doing with our shows, like the Creative Amplifiers show, my show on a Thursday, and if I do anything else in the middle, stuff like that. That's all automated. I look it over first, make some tweaks, but that used to take me, I know it seems silly, but it used to take me about an hour just to get in those YouTube links and get the descriptions and write it out and put the icons in and all that kind of stuff. And thinking, why do I need to do this? So I spent maybe 3 or 4 hours actually automating that, learning how to do it. And now it's just click, spits out a little blurb, and then you just look it over and then post it. So that's one quick way that I've automated. But Lisa, I know now you might want to talk about what you've been automating, but you've been playing around for a while now, I think. Did you start with Make? With everything, every AI tool.
Yeah, I started with Make, and I'm still in the process of trying to figure out what I want, because I need check-in points. I don't, let it automate to a point, then I can be the human to come in and make sure it's what it's supposed to be doing. To me, it's still early. I'm still like on the learning curve trying to figure this out. I've been automating the social media posts for a while now, and that's great, but trying to find other ways to make that flow even better. That's really where I'm at with it. I'm curious to hear, because we had started talking about N8N, what you're doing now with it.
I mean, it's so I've been using make.com for a while with a lot of the automation, and I've been looking at a couple of different YouTube. There's always somebody who's got some great ideas, and it's not knowing. See, I don't know what I don't know, right? So with N8N, there's so many things that you can do with the automation workflows. And for those of you just not sure what N8N is, just simply put, it's a piece of software online, or you can download it. And I'll tell you how to download it in a second. But if you, it's a piece of software that allows you to automate various tasks. So you can pull in things from Google Sheets, for example. You can use AI to create some content from maybe a description that you've got from a Google Sheet entry, and then it can spit out this content for you automatically, and then upload it either to LinkedIn or your social media platforms, or post it to a Google Doc for you then to review and then post yourself as well. So it's a way of automating mundane tasks. That's one way, but there's so many things that you can do. Email automation, different types of workflows and content creation. So what I did recently with N8N is I didn't realize, I think I mentioned to you that I downloaded N8N software. You can download it from the internet, host it, like physically put it on your own machine. I had an old Mac running it, but it was a bit of a pain. I had to keep updating it. I had to keep remembering to switch the Mac on when I wanted to use it. And it's not in the cloud, basically. So, these things, real world problems. But the barrier to entry was like having to, go into a different room, switch it on and so on. So I couldn't be bothered with that. So what I found is that for a small fee, N8N is open source, by the way, so it's free if you host it yourself. So there's a hosting platform called Hostinger. It's one where I've got my websites on and my domain names, and they offer a little virtual server that you can pay. And I think it was something ridiculous, like €4 a month.
Yeah, it's cheap. Yeah.
So cheap. And you get like you get basically a PC or a Mac, a system in the cloud that you can load software on. And they have a one-click button to install N8N for you. So that's what I did. So I just installed N8N on that virtual server. So it's effectively having N8N, but N8N I think is $20 a month if you buy it from them. And this is like $4 a month now, and it's still got exactly the same workflows. So I'm converting my make.com workflows into N8N, but also there's lots of other plugins that you can do with N8N that you can't on Make. And some,
Make,
so there's a bit of a balance. And I paid for Make for a year, which is this similar type of workflow software. So I'm now thinking I'm not going to renew make.com. I'm just going to probably go over to N8N, but there's still a lot of learning to do, I think, with it.
You agree it depends on your skill level as far as all of that, because Make is a little more, there's things you have to, there's a learning curve with Make, but it's not the other. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I think that's something to take into account. And there's another one too that's even easier than Make. I can't think of the name of it. That allows you to do the workflow. I'm blanking on it.
Right. But yeah, there's quite a few out there. But I think as content creators now, it's if you're not using automation in some form of your day-to-day workflow, then you are missing out. Because I've recently used Claude to help me identify and hone in a little bit more about my ideal client persona. So who am I trying to target from a customer's perspective to do the things that I do, that are things that I like doing? And it's good to put in what you want to do with your clients as opposed to what you don't want, to make sure that you get the right person. And then using some different automations and different workflows to be able to then actually create some posts specifically for LinkedIn around that, targeting some of their problems.
Skills?
Sorry?
Have you started using skills with?
No, I just saw a video
Claude?
today, and and after this, I'm going to go. So can you explain what skills are? I have an idea.
Play.
Do you know what skills are, and could you explain a little bit?
It'll allow you to build that automation out,
right.
Within Claude. So I was just going to say, if you're on repeat with having, like I have certain prompts that I like to use or certain things I like to use over and over again, but I may write them and put them somewhere and they're all over the place. So Notebook LM comes in handy with that, because once you've uploaded it, as you're trying to figure something out, you can, you have control over checking off if you want to use that or not.
Right.
But you can take those and put those into skills now and basically build out a workflow within there.
Okay.
So
it's a little bit
talk, because I'm playing too.
Well, I've just seen it today, and I'm thinking it's more like a little GPT, isn't it, within Claude? It's like a GPT equivalent in Claude. So you do it, give it a specific task, a specific automation, and it works. I also Googled Gemini 3.0 is very good at building content now, and also, I mean, it's just crazy. So I think what we're saying is there's so much available to you, and a lot of the stuff you can use for free as well. And I must send you guys a YouTube video I watched, I think today, on the guy was showing us all the tools that you pay for, and then other workflows that you can use, just maybe using Notebook LM, Claude, and maybe one other, saving yourself a lot of money.
Is that Rick's?
I think so. Yes, I think
video?
yes, that's him. Yeah, did you see that too?
Yeah.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
we're all on the same page here, but
we're on the same page.
But it's good. There's so much to use. Have you sort of dabbled with any automation, Mark, in your workflow yet? I know you've used some AI.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, some AI stuff, and like you say, the stuff related to Calendly and all those sorts of things I have done for quite a while. But there's definitely some stuff I can do, and some repetitive tasks like, when the podcast gets released and various stuff to go out on social and that sort of stuff, there's definitely things I could do. It's just, again, giving you that time, that learning curve, and that time to just want to do into it, because I've got the process down really easily and quickly from what I do, and I haven't quite got to the point where I'm like, I need that amount of time to do this to make that better, and it hasn't become a big enough issue yet for me to do it. So it's that I just want to kind of do it in a way that I can enjoy it without wrecking what I've got already, I think is probably what I'm trying to say.
That makes sense.
I think there is a bit of a learning curve associated with anything like this. And you can go down a rat hole, and you can spend a lot of time, and you think, God, by the time I've got this automation working, I could have done the job. But that's not the attitude, because it's a rinse and repeat model that you're looking for. Because if it takes you 4 hours to do a particular task, it's going to take you 4 hours next week to do the same task. So if you invest the time, however long it takes for the automation piece, then it's just a very quick way. And as Lisa knows, and what we've been doing as well, is that it's just a refinement. You'll find one way of doing something, and then maybe something will change in the AI world that makes it a little bit easier for you to then create this content another way. Like Claude is changing all the time. Like Claude Opus 4.5, for example, is phenomenal compared to the standard Claude. And for $20 a month, I think Claude is probably the best investment I've made by far from an AI perspective over the last sort of year. So there's so much to play with. And I think we should do an entire show on our AI workflows at some point, and maybe walk through some examples.
I just played with Gemini, creating carousels for Instagram, which is crazy.
Is it good for that?
Yeah. I just literally, before we got on the show, tried it. But it'll, I want to refine it more, because I did it on a very basic level, but it gave me, the right format. I'm going to now go back in and put in a hex code so the brand colors are in there. And
fantastic.
You upload the YouTube video or your blog post or whatever you have written, and it goes through it, and then it spits it out. I was like, because carousels take some time.
Oh yeah. They do. Even the ones that are pre-formatted in Canva, you still have to play around with them and format them and things like that. Amazing. A couple of comments coming in. First of all, hey Joan, saw you today on the Facebook group for Ecamm, new Ecamm user. Thanks for joining us on the show today. So I love
Encinitas.
I'm glad you said it,
Great
because I couldn't pronounce that. So
Encinitas, yes.
Encinitas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's some good restaurants
On
there.
the West Coast there as well. And Dean was saying setting up the Google with an A10 was half the battle. Yeah, I find that a bit tricky as well, setting up that Google Cloud stuff as well. And just ask a question to Dean and Lisa. Do you guys use OpenRouter? If you don't use OpenRouter, maybe you should consider looking at it. OpenRouter allows you, and you can pay by credits, so you don't have to pay like a monthly subscription. OpenRouter basically has the connections to Claude and GPT and all the LLMs. So you can just use one connection from an A10 or Make to OpenRouter, and then in the drop-down menu, call whichever LLM you want. And instead of having to connect to your Claude, to your GPT, to whatever, it just takes the hassle out of it. And it's a phenomenal service. Rapid API is another one. There's so many, but OpenRouter is good if you're not using that. Said was saying, oops, got my button, press it. Didn't know N8N was free. Yes, you can self-host. Definitely. And if you just use something like Hosting or something like that, it's so cheap. It's not even worth you building it on your own machine at this rate, because you can just set it up and it took me 5 minutes just to set that up. And my voice is going. Maybe it's a good time to close the show.
You and I both are like...
Excuse me. What's going on here? Just checking other things. Anymore. No, I think Dean was just saying that he also uses Hostinger, which is great. And you're using Docker and ngrok. Never use that, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I have to play around. There's so much stuff. And this is where the time takes. So we're not building content anymore. We're spending all our time in automation. And that's where the rat hole begins and so on. Well, this has been great tonight. And I really enjoyed, talking about the struggles that we do have as creators, and we're not. I think the main message is that you're not alone when it comes to struggling with content and the pressures that we put ourselves under as well, and coming from the community to an extent as well, where there is an expectation. But the things that I think we can draw from this is that it's okay to just stop at any time, because you're in control of that, and your own well-being and mental health and physical state is way over and above more important than anything else. The content will be there when you come back to it, and your audience will be there as well, because you've got a loyal audience that's following you, and they will be understanding. And there's no reason why you can't say, hey guys, I'm taking a month off. I'm going to sort of just decompress, recharge the batteries, and I'll be back next year or whenever it is. So I think that's important. Anything else you want to add to to that from what we've spoke about today.
I second that. You know,
Yeah,
you
I
can
just
do
think
it.
that sense of modeling, I think, is probably quite powerful because, you know, if you're not prepared to do that, then the people that are following you and wanting to be part of what you're involved in, well, it needs to look like this, even if it's not the same world, you know, within their life as well. So I think when you see people say, "Yep, no, that's it, I'm done," or I'm taking Christmas off, or I'm taking this summer holiday off, or whatever it happens to be, it gives other people that permission as well. But the flip side of that, and Christmas is always an interesting one for me, because a lot of people do a lot of travel over Christmas, and I actually quite like catching up on podcasts and content over that time. And you get to the point where you run out because if they're not releasing stuff, so it's interesting how you do that as well. But I think that's where the batching and that kind of how you want it to be received, as well as how you're actually then producing it yourself, and that's probably a title for a different show. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and to tie onto that, and it would be a different show. Do a compilation show, like knock a couple of those out, and then sprinkle them while you're gone. If you're worried about being completely gone,
Yeah, that's a really good
because
idea.
a lot of your audience, a lot of people may have never seen the show, and now they're getting little, little bite-sized bits of some theme. So
Yeah, think of them as little infomercials. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably just as a final note, talking about the energy levels of people that you work with, I think we understand now, Neil, maybe why we're not going to do more than one show a week, because Lisa couldn't quite stand. It's like our suggestion of doing it 3 times a week. Lisa's like, no.
As long as we feed her before midnight or whatever the
All is
story
well.
is. Yeah, all is
Exactly,
well.
all is well.
FedEx some food over here. I'll be good.
Just before we do disappear, and speaking of Christmas, next week, I know it's a little bit early for some, but we've decided to take a little bit of time out in December, so that's why we're having our early-ish Christmas show. Well, I say earliest. The Christmas decorations, chocolates, and presents have been in the shop since, I don't know, August. So we can do our Christmas show next week. So same time next week, Monday the 8th of December, will be our little festive show. So bring your Christmas cheer, your mince pies. No alcohol, of course. This is going to be a dry Christmas. I'm just kidding. Bring alcohol if you want. Dress up, have some festivities. And if you want to pop in on the Zoom call and join us and say hello, you're very welcome to do that as well. I'll make that available if anybody would like to do that. But for now, I'd like to thank Lisa and Mark for a wonderful show, and thanks so much for everybody who's joined us. And we'll see you same time, same place next week for the Christmas extravaganza. Until then, bye.